Good evening and welcome to another episode of Morbid Message Monday. My name is Jake.
And my name is Matt.
And we are here with the Omelet himself, Amulet.
Hello, everybody. I don't know
Tell
what
us
else to say.
Yeah, tell us about yourself, buddy.
Tell
What
us,
is
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Well, my name is Amulet. I am a variety Twitch streamer from Canada, and I'm just happy to be here. That's all you got to know.
Hey,
Okay.
yeah, very humble. I like it. I appreciate you. Today, we're talking about the one, the only, the paranormal, spooky, alien infested cryptid housing, one-of-a-kind tract of land in Utah, Skinwalker Ranch. Welcome to Morbid Message Monday with Matt and Jay. Before we get started, I would like to say this is a tale of murder, mutilation, alien abduction, and some seriously heinous shit just on top of all of it, like necrophilia. Really just gross stuff.
Nice.
So viewer discretion is advised. Viewer/listener discretion is advised. Now, Amulet, start us off.
All right. Well, this all started when Mexico and the USA signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. I don't know. how to properly pronounce
Let's
that.
stop that.
Guadalupe.
Let's stop that. When they signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. There you go.
There you go.
On February 2nd, 1848, ending the Mexican War.
Guadalupe.
Hey, I'm sorry, everybody.
It's okay. We already established that you guys say
Hidalgo?
words differently than us.
Guadalupe Hidalgo. What are you, Matt?
They signed this treaty on February 2nd, 1848, ending the Mexican War. After losing the war,
The
Mexico
Mexican-American War. Let's say that real quick. I'm
was
just
forced,
gonna throw that in
the
there.
Mexican-American War.
Mhm.
After losing the war, Mexico was forced to give up half of their land to the USA. This trade included Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and California.
505, baby.
505. Let's go.
Let's go. New Mexico pride.
This vast trade of land was also forced a lot of native tribes to change authorities with the U.S. government and forced them to negotiate with the U.S. government for their own land and water, which is bullshit.
No, absolute bullshit. Like,
Now
let's just
going-
say
Yeah.
we're on the side of the Native Americans in
it's,
this.
It's complete trash. But now going to the state of Utah, one of Utah's most popular tribes at the time was the Navajo tribe or Navajo Nation. The tribe was not known for making peace, but they were known for fighting and raiding land and attacking a neighboring tribe, the Ute tribe. Just north.
The Utes.
Ute.
Oh, is
the
it
Utes.
Utes?
Yeah,
Oh,
Utes.
I always thought it was Ute.
It's not. It sounds like it should be, but it's not.
Yeah, the Ute tribe, just north of Navajo country.
So there was a reason for this violence, I would like to say. Now, see, the Ute and the Navajo tribes used to work together in vanquishing their various enemies. They would hunt together. They would do things just essentially together. They would work together in fighting like the Apaches and all that kind of stuff, right? However, in the 1700s, the Spaniards came along and they were starting to stomp around on the land. You know, they were starting to make themselves known. Now, as you know, the Spaniards weren't exactly the greatest people, so they forced several of the native tribes out of places. Now, specifically, they were trying to force the Navajo Nation out of Utah. So, in the 1700s, they traded with the Utes. They traded horses, essentially in exchange for Navajo slaves. Now, later down the line during the Civil War, the Utes worked with Kit Carson. By the way, there's a park here called Kit Carson Memorial Park. I want you all to remember this when I read this out loud because it's not good.
Is there really?
Yes, in a military campaign against the Navajo Nation. With the U.S. government trying to get the land from these tribes, they came to an agreement with the Utes basically saying, we will help you get rid of the Navajo people if you give us some of your land.
Yep.
It's pretty bad.
I have
It's
to
not
wonder if this didn't happen if Utah would have been not the hot spot for the Mormons.
I think it's a different time period actually. If you
Maybe.
look at the Mormon religion is not very old.
Conquest.
In fact, if you look into, first of all, we're not going to talk about Mormonism.
No, we're not.
But it is a harrowing tale when you look into Mormonism. In fact, if you want to listen to a podcast on Mormonism, last podcast on the left has like, I think, a 6-part series on Mormonism, and it is some fucking crazy shit. Like crazy shit. But Amulet, take us away.
All right. After making a deal, the Ute tribe sold many of their peers into slavery. After this, the Utes and the U.S. government were officially allies and came up with a plan to start raiding Navajo country. After the Navajo tribe refused to give up their land, the Utes and the U.S. military started to starve the Navajo people by placing a bounty on Navajo livestock. Following this came bribery and resulted a massive Navajo surrender, making a deal between the Navajo tribe and the U.S. government, driving them from their lands and march into New Mexico's Fort Summer. This was called the Long Walk of the Navajo.
And this was something that I was actually reading about today, which was the Long Walk of the Navajo.
Is that different from the Trail of Tears?
It is, yes. Okay. I was thinking the same thing, but yes.
When I was reading it initially, I thought it was the Trail of Tears, but it's a whole other horrible event that we did.
Yeah, essentially the Utes and Kit Carson and company forced the Navajo tribe out of Utah, and they marched. I'm not even joking. This was a literal march from Utah into New Mexico's Fort Sumner, which I don't know if you know how far Utah is from New Mexico, but it is pretty heinous. I mean, like, goddamn. Careful, don't want to piss off the Mormons. Dad, fuck the Mormons. Just kidding. We're going to leave that alone. But, dude, fucking come at me. Whatever. You want to fucking come at me with your weird cult-ass bullshit. Like, I've heard some heinous shit. They're going to show up at my door and be like, have you heard about fucking Joseph Smith?
We heard you were
let's talk about Joseph Smith together. But yes, the Mormons hold nothing to the Mennonites. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
Cult for cult, let's fucking go.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, shit. The Mennonites versus the Mormons.
Pay-per-view, $99.99.
Sponsored by Logan Paul.
The Utes have long said that the ranch is on the path of the Skinwalker, and therefore will go nowhere near it. This was even prior to the negotiations with the U.S. government or the Spaniards. The Utes and the Navajos believe that the Skinwalkers have been there for at least 15 generations. They don't believe that the Skinwalkers live on the ranch, but they live nearby in an area known as the Dark Canyon.
Hell yeah, Dark Canyon. Let's go.
Also known as the Skinwalker Ridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Skinwalker Ridge. That is another name for it. Yeah.
This is why so many sightings are reported at the ranch. The Ute tribe and the Navajo tribe are very serious about skinwalkers, and therefore not much is known because they keep the information very close to their culture.
And this is
convenient.
This is very true. I know that skinwalkers sound like a crazy thing and all this kind of stuff, but both the Navajo and the Utes are actually quite afraid of the skinwalker. Give me one moment because my mouth just went full dry.
Full dry? As opposed
Full
to half
dry. Not half dry. Not 25% dry. Full dry.
Quarter dry.
Yeah, definitely not 75% either. Don't fucking come at me with that. But there is a lot of information that is unknown about the skinwalkers because the Navajo Nation will not share it outside of their tribe. And the same thing with the Utes. Now, the Utes do believe that the Navajo placed a curse on their tribe for their past transgressions of selling the Navajo into slavery. It was just after the Long Walk of the Navajo that the Skinwalkers began plaguing the Utes. A Skinwalker, so to kind of explain it to everybody, for those of you who are uninitiated or unaware of the what it is known as a witch or a shapeshifter that chooses to put on the form of what is only described as a giant wolf, bear, or sometimes a coyote. The general idea is they all have these large glowing red eyes, but not like, the way that I made on the flyer where they're like flares, but they're like
they
hot
said that
coals.
When like a light gets shined on their eyes that they glow. But
yeah, well,
it's kind of like the Bigfoot theory.
Like a dull,
it's like their eyes are glowing red coals, right? Like if you touched them, they would burn you.
Gotcha.
Now, it sometimes exhibits supernatural strength as well. Like not some, it's pretty much just supernaturally strong. Now, placing a curse on the Ute property made it a big place to avoid, and they gave the name Skinwalker Ranch because of this curse, right? Because the Skinwalkers are supposedly in Skinwalker Ridge, which is pretty much bordering the big tract of land known as Skinwalker Ranch. Now, I would like to let you all know that skinwalkers do not become skinwalkers out of nowhere. In fact, the Navajo Nation believes that skinwalkers become skinwalkers by doing something that is incredibly highly taboo. And I don't mean like, oh, they looked at the wrong thing on the internet. I'm talking about like murdering your close relative, like a brother, father, mom, whatever, and then having sex with a dead body. Like literally necrophilia is what leads you on the path of becoming a skinwalker. They're also highly feared in Native American lore. Like you may think of it as, oh, it's just a silly urban legend, but it is truly like 100% very much feared within Navajo culture. Mainly because the skinwalker is actually the antithesis of the Navajo culture, because the Navajo Nation is made up of medicine men and primarily healers, right? And while, yes, we said that they were very much like non-peaceful and attacked the Utes, you have to remember the Utes kind of fucking had it coming when it came to the Navajo Nation.
Oh, they were dicks.
Yeah, the Navajo Nation were made up of healers who used good magic in order to heal, right? And again, this is 3 white dudes talking about the Navajo Nation. I know it's probably not the most fucking top of the line thing that you've heard all day, but we're talking about it from what we've read and what we know. By no means are we experts on Native American culture. Like in any way, shape, or form, we don't see ourselves as that. But either way, what I've learned is essentially the Navajo were good healers using good magic to do so. However, they did know of both sides. They knew of the good magic and they knew of the evil, dark magic, right? Now, in order to become a skinwalker, like I said, you must commit a deeply seated taboo, such as murdering a family member and desecrating their dead body. This, of course, never stopped anyone from occupying the land, and that's actually when the madness began.
Yep. Now, we're going to go in, starting from when the Skinwalker Ranch started having people that were not the Ute tribe or the Navajo people. So this all
You mean the
started
white folk?
This is, yes, the white folks.
The
Yes.
white folk.
So in 1905, that's when all the white folk started moving into the ranch. As early as 1905,
Look over here, Bertha!
the ranch was a small, tiny town. It was like a small little village, basically, with dirt roads, horses, and yeah, you basically get the idea.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes, exactly.
The village you go through, kill everyone and don't feel bad.
Newspaper reports profiled strange noises in the basin, also known as the valley. The homesteaders started seeing unexplained phenomena. Hearing weird noises and loud bangs, weird screaming sounds that didn't sound like any animal they were familiar with. So what could that have been? We don't know. Yeah,
Like that,
thank you.
right? Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Like, I'm sorry. Back then, if you hear something like that and you're living there, it's time to move.
Dude, it's God. It's God telling you something, dude. And God is on his way.
It's time to go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's time to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Well,
seeing,
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Continue.
And seeing UFOs or UAPs, the new name, the government
Unidentified
gave it.
aerial phenomenon.
Yes, and I personally, I don't think that's a good name. I think they should just stick with UFOs, but whatever.
UFO. Yeah.
But they were seeing UFOs or UAP sightings in the sky. People had medical episodes as well. Everything from incidents of nausea, perception-altering experiences, vertigo, and temporary paralysis. One of the homesteaders were the Myers family, who abandoned their original homestead and built a new one on the east side of the large tract of land, or is now known as Skinwalker Ranch.
Before we get into the Myers, I will say I think UAP makes more sense than unidentified flying object, because there are sometimes just lights in the sky. Those don't always end up being flying objects. They could actually be unidentified aerial phenomenon, like the Phoenix Lights. I don't consider that a UFO sighting. I consider that a phenomenon.
I consider that Phoenix trying to hold on to the little shred of popularity that they have.
I love all the clickbait videos on YouTube about. I freaking love it.
First owners of the ranch bought the land in 1934 and lived there all the way up to 1994. And sold the property to the Sherman family. When the Myers lived on the ranch, all was normal. Like, for some reason, everything that happened with the homesteaders that lived on the ranch before them just vanished. While they owned the property until 1994, the Myers family did leave the ranch in 1987. In this time, however, the Uinta Basin became a hotbed for UFO activity. Uinta Basin became a hotbed for UFO activity and strange sightings. This includes hundreds of reports of UFOs, strange aircrafts in the sky, unexplained lights, vehicles moving at inhuman speeds, and much more.
So basically, as you notice, we're not just talking about only skinwalkers, but we're also getting into the topic of UFOs and UAPs. Two different things at once, because skinwalkers don't fly, as we know of.
Nope.
So we're getting into two different things now.
Yeah, that's something interesting about Skinwalker Ranch in general is there's like a huge paranormal side, right? There's even like ghost sightings, essentially. We're not going to talk about any of those, but there's like everything from UFOs to Bigfoot. Like there's a bunch. Now, these weren't even the first sightings of UFO activity. The Spaniards, the very same that we talked about earlier, who traveled through the area as early as 1700, have stories of seeing craft in the sky over their campfires. Oh. Now, by the 1970s, the Utah Highway Patrolmen stopped filling out incident reports because of the sheer number of UFO reports made by locals. These reports included things such as like giant fireballs in the sky, giant cigar-shaped spacecraft, not dissimilar to the reports made by the Navy just recently, cattle mutilations, and large animals with glowing red eyes. A chilling detail is many of the reports stated they saw living beings in the portholes and windows of said crafts.
Yeah.
And that is actually quite true. Now, before we get into what I consider the meat of this story, the Myers family themselves didn't see a lot of these phenomenons, right? They saw very little. It was really their neighbors and the folks in the surrounding area that saw all of the actual insanity.
Yep.
But Amulet, bring us in on our next little bit here.
All right. So the next family to own the property was Terry and Gwen Sherman. Like Jake said, this is where all the juicy stuff starts. So you're going to want to listen to this.
The juice.
See, Terry and Gwen Sherman, they bought the ranch in 1994 off of, what was her name? Kenneth and Edith Myers. There we go. They were super excited to own this huge ranch because for the longest time, it was their dream to move away from the city and live on a farm, or in this case, a ranch.
I just want to live a simple country life. That's what they wanted to do.
Yep.
Cracker Barrel style.
Hell yeah, Cracker Barrel. Such a good place.
Yeah, and it is what it's called, you know, it's just a bunch of white people in a barrel.
That's always what it is, too.
Yep.
Go to a Cracker Barrel and tell me I'm fucking wrong.
You're not wrong.
I've never seen different. I also don't go there very much. So.
The same. Cracker Barrel
I go there all the time when I cross the border.
There you go, man.
Yep. Now, the ranch stood empty for 7 years prior to the Shermans' purchase. Upon arrival, they found that pretty much every single door had a deadbolt on, like a deadbolt on it. This included kitchen cabinets, and either end of the home, large stakes were installed with huge metal chains. The Shermans assumed that there were large guard dogs at the time, but they never found out.
That's the story you tell yourself, why they're using 40-pound chains to hold guard dogs.
It's definitely not to hold the humans.
No, this wasn't for Bigfoot. It was for a dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And the weird detail that I thought was like, why are the cabinets deadbolted? Like, how unsafe did the people actually feel?
Well, it's entirely possible, like, if they were dealing with, like, multiple paranormal phenomenon, like something was opening the cabinets and, like, slamming them open.
This is when we think of the ghosts and stuff, right? Like the poltergeists and all that kind of stuff.
This is where that kind of comes into play, because you're like, why would you deadbolt your cabinets unless something was like throwing them open in the middle of the night?
I'd actually really like to know more about the Shermans in general. Like, were they plagued by ghosts? There's like a ton of information about Skinwalker Ranch that we're just like glossing over right now.
Oh yeah, it's a huge topic for sure.
Now, the very first day that the Shermans moved in was their first out of the ordinary sighting. The family spotted a large wolf, or like coyote type creature, and was trying to drag a calf through the corral bars. I mean, there's nothing weird about this. Like, coyotes and wolves got to eat too. Cattle are a prime target, especially out in the middle of nowhere. But, you know, they didn't want their cattle to be mutilated, destroyed, whatever. So Terry Sherman and his father actually ran to the creature. They started beating the shit out of it, like really like punching, kicking, screaming obscenities in hopes that it would let go of the calf and run. However, this did not happen.
Yeah. When all else failed, Terry pulled out his 357 Magnum, which if you're not American, me personally, I don't know guns. But if it's essentially a
You're
pistol.
Canadian, Shawnee.
It's a big ass pistol.
It's Dirty Harry's revolver.
Yeah, Dirty Harry's revolver is a 357 Magnum.
Yeah.
And with this gun, they Terry shot the creature point blank, but all the bullets did was just bounce off the creature.
Which
Terry, in shock, just kept shooting the creature and still no sign of pain. This didn't stop the creature from holding on to the calf. After shooting the creature numerous more times, the creature finally let go and just stayed there, staring at the two men. It took several more shots for the creature to finally scurry off amazingly, leaving no trail of blood or even a sign of injury to the creature.
Now, the men decided to follow the tracks of the creature for about a mile until they simply ended, as if a wolf or coyote vanished into thin air. Only a couple weeks later, Gwen Sherman was witness to another event. Gwen was the wife of Terry and the mother of the home. A large wolf, and I mean like huge, like the back of the wolf was up to her windshield, essentially.
right.
Or
You're
back
talking
windshield.
like Thor
Like-
size wolf.
Like a dire wolf.
Yeah, like a dire wolf.
Right.
There you go. That's a good. Yeah.
It was seen outside of her car window, and it was accompanied by a dog-like creature. She couldn't get like a great look at this, and thankfully nothing came of it. But this was truly the only beginning of the phenomenons that happened to the Shermans. The next 2 years were filled with seemingly nonstop moments of terror, fright, horror, and everything in between for the Shermans and their neighbors.
Got to give them props though for making it 2 years.
Yeah.
Dude,
I
the
would've
fucking
left.
the
I would have
Myers
started
made
at
it.
the fucking wolf and said nope.
Yep.
The Myers made it nearly 60, so I don't know.
Yep.
That's true.
But yet again, there was no reports from the Myers. That's the thing.
Well, none that
Not
we
many.
know of. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
There may
60
very
years,
well
you
have
would think
been.
nothing really happened to him.
All right. Well, perfect. While the the Shermans were on the ranch, perfectly healthy cattle started dropping dead out of the blue, or in other words, being mutilated. Not only were these daylight mutilations, but these were very strange and bizarre, surgically precise dissections.
precise.
That can-
Certainly precise.
Is it precise in Canada?
Is it precise?
It's precise.
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I actually I had to ask. I mean, you're
It's
a
precise.
different culture.
You cued us into a bunch of words that we did not know
Hey,
you guys
yeah.
said different.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
We spell a lot of things differently here in Canada. We have a U in color. Yeah, it's a lot of different
Neighbor,
neighbor,
neighbor.
neighbor,
Yep. We have
It's
a U
different.
in neighbor. Yep.
boot.
Precise dissections that cannot not be done by any animal. They were drained of their blood, and there was no blood to be found around them.
Now,
So what could have caused this?
I honestly I
Yeah.
question that. Like that was one of the strangest things that I've read about. Like what happened in the case of the Shermans is like blood was devoid of the situation.
Yeah,
as a
they were
whole.
they were just holes.
Well, and we
Yeah.
see several cattle mutilations, like
Mhm.
25% of their entire herd, right? Like were lost within the 2 years that they were there.
Yeah.
But a peculiar case was when one of the several mutilated cows was found with a hole in its left eyeball, like a perfectly bored hole in its eyeball.
If
Now,
you
another
Google
one was
search it, you'll
found.
probably be able to find it.
Yeah, no, you can find. There's photos of this. Like there's like physical evidence to show. Now, another one was found with a larger hole in its other eyeball. But the strangest of all the cattle mutilations that I personally found was a cow with an 18-inch cavity where its rectum used to be, and this just led to a hole in its body cavity. Again, none of these mutilations were found with any sort of blood at any of the site, and each had a very distinct chemical smell. Now, as stated before, these were performed at a surgical level that most humans couldn't even perform, especially considering the complete lack of blood and the situation, right? I mean, you're out in the middle of a field, you're not going to perform like a picture. Sorry. Sorry. Anna's just staring at me. I looked over, she's got like, you know, like one of those face masks. And it's like one of the scary ones. Oh Lord. So I'm just like oh my God, mortuary assistant.
Oh, okay.
You know those ones? You've seen them. You've seen them. You guys have seen them.
Yeah.
Anyway, doesn't matter. Anyway, like I said, the situation all in all is just impossible to say, because there were no footprints, no animal tracks, no anything. And even if there were, it wouldn't make sense that these things were done at a surgical level by any sort of animal, which really leads me to only believe that it could have been done by some sort of extraterrestrial entity.
Aliens.
Aliens.
In the span of the 2 years the Shermans lived there, about 25% of the herd was lost. Another event witnessed by Terry Sherman was a large hyena-like creature he described as roughly 200 pounds and low to the ground. It was attacking a horse of his, and when he went to intervene, the creature vanished right before his eyes.
Can you just like imagine though, like this, like
that.
like a big old hyena, dude, 200 pounds, low to the ground. You're fucking going over there because you're big, strong Terry Sherman. By the way, what
I was
the
gonna
hell?
say, first
the
of all,
balls on this dude.
The horse is gone.
Like,
just let it happen.
Just let the horse die.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sorry, but like that horse is gone, man. I'm not going
Terry
over there
Sherman
200
has
pounds.
had balls though.
Yeah, Terry Sherman is
very bald.
Back to the
nuts,
the
dude.
calf being attacked through the fence. They literally, before they grabbed the gun, they started beating the shit out of it.
Yeah, what kind of badass? Like, you know what? That thing's intimidating, but I'm gonna go punch it.
It's supposed to be in
go kick the shit
Australia,
out
but
of
I'm
it.
gonna go kick the shit out of it. Fucking hyena.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, 0% of that.
Yep.
Sounds good.
So neighbors reported seeing completely out of the ordinary animals such as exotic birds, tall, dark beasts, and some even reported sightings of a Sasquatch. We're getting into Bigfoot territory now.
Bigfoot territory, boys. We're going
The
Bigfoot.
Shermans- The Shermans started getting a lot of UFO or UAP sightings, a lot of random noises coming from the mesa, farm equipment ending up in trees, and we're not talking about like small hand tools. We're talking about like
a post
Heavy-
digger, like a
yeah,
huge
like a heavy equipment ending up in trees. Just some very similar stuff the homesteaders witnessed back in like the early 1900s.
Yeah, no, like
No.
really crazy,
the
crazy
fact that
stuff.
they made it longer than 2 years, if this was truly happening to them, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know, it was probably just the husband being like stubborn.
He was just stubborn. He was just the normal stubborn
None
American
of this
guy.
is real. I didn't just see
don't
the
worry.
fucking hyena.
We've waited this long to live on a ranch. We're not moving.
God
just
damn it,
didn't-
Gwen, we're not leaving the farm.
I just didn't shoot it hard enough this time. I'll get it next time.
I'm going to go get stronger rounds. Oh, man. Now, the nail in the coffin for of the ranch for the Shermans happened on an evening in May of 1996 when Terry Sherman was outside with his 3 dogs. Now, this is sad. Everybody who loves dogs, you're going to get sad. So get ready. He noticed a blue light appear in the sky. He was darting around the field near their ranch house. We also didn't state this, but they saw many, many occurrences of different types of lights just kind of like flying around in the sky above them. Now, he urged his dogs to chase after it, and so they did. Sherman then heard 3 horrific yelps, and when he called for his dogs to return, he got no response. The next morning, he went on a search for his dogs. He happened across a site that was truly out of like a science fiction, like horror film. He found 3 greasy lumps inside of a scorched spot. None of the dogs were ever seen again.
That's definitely
it's
one of
rough,
the-
dude. I like this blue light turned him into butter. Like, how does that even
Into butter.
how does that even happen?
Butter.
What even is that? And like, I want to also like state here that the Shermans have nothing to gain
No.
by telling anybody these stories. Like, they just look like a bunch of lunatics when they talk about this stuff. Like, the only thing that they actually gained was being able to get out of there relatively quick.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, after your dogs get juicified, like, what else are you gonna do?
Jesus fucking.
Like, if nothing else scared you, the fact that your dogs just got obliterated by some unknown light.
Doggo butter, it's got a little bite. Jesus fucking Christ, Madness. We're making steaks tonight. Nope, no, we're not. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Ona just went, oh. Oh, man.
Oh,
damn. All right. Well, finally, after 2 years of strange shit going on in this ranch, the Shermans finally went public about their sightings and wound up in a 1996 edition of the Desert News, a Utah newspaper. So they're famous now, folks.
They are.
Their plan was to sell the ranch to the first buyer so they can vacate right away. But before even putting it up for sale, millionaire Robert Bigelow approached them after reading the article and purchased the ranch for $200,000. Just keep in mind, at the time, that's
1996. That's not bad. $200,000.
Yeah, like that's. Well, today it's like worth like 400, like not 400. Like
still,
4
though,
million.
after reading that article, what goes through your mind makes you think,
well, Robert Bigelow is an interesting character.
We'll find out. We'll find out about that in a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had the Sherman signed an NDA, also known as a non-disclosure agreement, agreeing to no longer speak of what they had seen on the ranch. The deal was made, and the Shermans were finally free.
Can you
Obviously,
imagine?
the deal wasn't made officially because we're finding out about this stuff now.
Well, no, that's not technically true. Like, the only stuff we know from the Shermans are what they released to this newspaper.
Right,
like,
because everything after that we don't know.
They have probably hundreds of stories that they could share that they're not allowed to because they actually did sign an NDA.
He wants the exotic butters.
But now we need to find out who the hell is Robert Bigelow, and why did he make them sign an NDA? We're going to have to find that out, and we will.
Because Robert Bigelow is an interesting character in this story. He is a millionaire businessman who happens to be really into ufology.
Okay.
Robert Bigelow came in with his science team, NIDS, National Institute of Discovery Science. But it is now known today as the Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, say that 5 times fast, that was funded by the U.S. government. From the years 1996...
Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies.
It's a big
Bigelow
word.
Aerospace
He's almost there.
Studies.
Shut up, Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Amulet.
I know. I said he's almost there, and you interrupted.
You realize the smaller version of that is Bass.
It's Bass, yeah. No,
I work
know.
for Bass.
I work for Bass. We're a fishing company. Now, from the years 1996 to 2012 are when these studies took place. Over $22 million were spent on doing research of the ranch, UFOs, cattle mutilation, and various other paranormal topics, even as far as to say like poltergeists and stuff of that nature. It was watched and guarded by 24-hour surveillance. Now, in 2004, the NIDS reported little success in their findings and disbanded. This, however, was quickly replaced by Bass, which was much more secretive about their findings, and even had an apparent government sponsor. In fact, Luis Elizondo, a military intelligence officer of the Pentagon, the Pentagon, ever heard of it?
It's serious now,
Amulet, you're in Canada. You know what the Pentagon is?
I saw it in Transformers and X-Men.
Why is it called the Pentagon?
Because it's 5-sided. Have you ever seen the Pentagon? Have you ever Googled it?
I've Googled it, yes.
Okay.
All right, good. Well, I was going to... No, we'll leave that out. This shadowy project was partially funded by Nevada Senator Harry Reid, who was a longtime friend of Robert Bigelow. Now, none of this information was was public knowledge until 2017 when the New York Times, those nosy bastards, released it. And a Department of Defense official confirmed it. Mm-hmm. Harry Reid then admitted to his complicity. Hold on a second. What is killing you right now? What? She's laughing. I want to know what it is.
Okay.
To this day, the Department of Defense does not acknowledge the existence of the program. However, they did state that it shut down in 2012, and several pieces of the information are still considered highly classified.
Good. So it didn't exist, but there was something that it made.
Yeah, they're like, this isn't real, but it did go away in 2012.
Yep. So as Jake just said, the program was shut down in 2012. That year, the contract with Advanced Aviation Threat Identification expired, and it was not renewed due to concern that Elizondos?
Oh my God, I just said it.
Elizondo, that the information went public, it would be seen as misappropriation of taxpayer dollars. Now, as we've stated, most of the research done during this period is considered highly classified within the government, so seeing it is not likely and therefore somewhat a mystery. What we do know is that a lot of the professional scientists that worked on the ranch have said that they refuse to ever set foot on the ranch again for the rest of their lives, which I don't fucking blame them.
Don't blame them at all. No, not at all.
Another thing we know is that clearly some crazy shit happened on the ranch that made Bigelow and the government stop doing studies and sell the property to Brandon Fugel, the current owner of the ranch.
Yes. In 2016, Robert Bigelow sold the ranch to Brandon Fugel of Adamantium Holdings, and it was sold for a rumored, we don't know like the exact selling offer, but $4.5 million. So he bought it for $200,000 and sold it for $4.5 million. And this Brandon Fugel fella must have just thought, oh, wow, this is really mysterious. I'm going to buy it.
So if you're wondering who Brandon Fugel is, he is a realtor or real estate agent, if you just want to know.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why he's so rich.
Yeah, that's why he's a big,
he just
big
has money
rich.
In real estate, right?
Yeah.
Amethyst, you have a wonderful evening. No, none of us had said it.
I did.
Okay, Matt said it. Never mind. Oh wait, there he is. Yeah, Matt from Tech Mess. Never mind. Just ignore me. Yeah. It's a lot of bathrooms to clean.
Now, from 2016 to today, Brandon has hired a team of scientists to do studies on the ranch and try to figure out what is going on. This team consisted of Travis Taylor, an astrophysicist, Eric Bard, the principal investigator for the ranch, Thomas Winterton, the ranch superintendent, and Jim Morse, ranch manager, and Brian Arnold, also known as Dragon as his nickname.
Fucking
awesome
dweeb.
You can call me Dragon.
You can call me Dragon. No one's getting to this castle.
Yeah. And he is the head of security. Now there's a bunch of more people that he hired. They're just useless.
They're useless. Yeah, they have no purpose on the ranch.
Nobody's as cool as Dragon. You have to stop a dragon.
Yeah, you got to stop a dragon, man.
Yeah, it's so cool with that name. Everything they have done on the ranch so far has been put into a 3-season show called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch on the History Channel. Now,
thank you for the sponsorship, History Channel, for this plug.
Hashtag not sponsored. Now, back to the dragon part. The show's pretty funny because whatever they call Brandon Fugel, they're like, Brandon Fugel's on the phone. Dragon, what do you got for me?
Jesus Christ.
It's so funny. On the show, they have done a lot of experiments that keep getting more and more expensive and crazier. When they find more, oh my gosh, they keep getting crazier whenever they find more evidence. I highly recommend you watch the show.
Not necessarily the opinion of Tech Mess, but the opinion of Amulet as an individual.
Fine. We highly recommend you watch the show.
This is not the opinion of Tech Mess, but Amulet as an individual.
A lot of recommend the show because it's just amazing and shocking with how many crazy things they discover.
Mhm.
Now, we're not going to talk about the show because we don't want to spoil it, and we want you, the viewer or listener, to enjoy it for yourselves. But if you want to watch some crazy shit, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch on History Channel, hashtag not sponsored, is
Sponsored, not
definitely worth
sponsored.
watching when you can find the time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I did watch a little bit of it. I think I watched like an
Watched a couple episodes.
episode-ish.
Yeah.
Like an episode, and it was definitely interesting. I will give you all a fair warning. This is just my opinion. It's got some real Ghost Hunter vibes.
Oh yeah, it definitely does.
Like
It definitely
definitely
does.
there are points where like nothing is happening, and they're like, "Did you guys feel that? Oh my god,
Yeah.
the magnetic field! It's getting me." But like there's definitely some good stuff. It's not full on Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
However, there you have it, folks.
Yeah.
That was Skinwalker Ranch, a fascinating tale of the truly strange things from the paranormal world.
Nope.
And it fits in here because it's Morbid Message Monday.
Why the fuck would you buy that place? Like, why? Why would you want?
Let's talk about
research
that.
purposes.
Yeah, I mean, like, you think about like the world ufology and the people who are really into this stuff. They want to own the property. I mean, there are people who want to
I
own
guess I
murder
understand
houses,
that. Right?
and there are people who want to own these really horrible, awful things. They want to own murder weapons and paintings from prisoners and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
when you think about owning this giant tract of land that's a hotbed for paranormal activity, I'm sure plenty of people's ears
Can
perk
you
up.
just imagine though owning it and like the weird like that you get that feeling like when you're walking through your house and it's dark.
Mhm.
But like, can you imagine that while you're walking outside at night in this fucking place?
Do you think Brandon Fugel lives there? He doesn't.
No, I know he
Like-
doesn't live there, but like
He probably doesn't even
obviously,
go there.
obviously
A
they go.
scientist
Yeah,
do.
somebody goes there. So like that
Sure.
feeling of walking around at night, like whatever, they're going out to have a cigarette, something like that. But like, just oh god,
You
Oh,
get
dude,
balls of
absolutely.
steel like the Shermans.
you need a
Yeah.
name like the dragon.
Yeah,
Okay.
you need a name like the dragon to deal with the skinwalkers. Yeah, well, no, and that's an interesting thing. And fun fact, I know I've talked about Post Malone here before, but he actually visited Skinwalker Ranch as well.
Did
Did he
did
really?
Yeah,
Did he
100%.
really?
Yep. Just add it to the list of what the fucks from Post
Just-
Malone.
Just getting the
There's a lot of
skinwalkers
those.
high as hell with the weed.
Yeah, dude, freaking chilling. No, it's interesting. I mean, like the whole world of Skinwalker Ranch is really interesting, and I would like to say we've just barely like scratched the surface.
There's a lot to it. There were a lot of stories around, like surrounding the place.
Well, there's a
So,
book, I believe it's
yeah.
called Hunt for the Skinwalker,
Mm.
and it's written by George Knapp and Colm Kelleher, and it is a really, really highly detailed story of
Yeah.
Skinwalker Ranch prior to this TV show. I mean, like all of the things that had happened at Skinwalker Ranch that anybody could say are detailed within this book.
Yeah.
And definitely worth checking out. So if you are interested in learning more about the Skinwalker Ranch, definitely look into that. Make sure you check out the show as well. And guys, thank you so much for freaking talking about Skinwalker Ranch tonight. This is an interesting episode. And like I said, we've barely scratched the surface. There's still so
Yeah,
much
there's
more
so
to
much
know.
stuff.
And there's still so much more that'll be found out as time moves on, as time progresses. So Amulet, thank you, buddy. Thank you for coming
Yeah.
on. Thank you for doing all this
Happy to be
freaking
here.
research, man.
Yeah, you killed
It's
it.
definitely a topic that I was really interested in, and I was like, hey, I know you guys have a podcast, and I love to talk about it with you guys. So I was like, I hit you up, and then it happened. So
Yeah,
happy to be here.
You did it the right way, buddy.
Yeah, well, and we'll use
Truly.
this as an example. If you are a listener or viewer that wants to be on the show and you have a topic you'd like to talk about, reach out to us. If
Absolutely.
you're not in our Discord, send us a message on Twitter, whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
Figure it out.
absolutely. And in fact, we do have somebody else coming next week
We do.
with a very similar story. I'll let you guess who it is. We're not going to say it out loud because I'm sure none of you will be shocked. But
I know who it is.
But yeah, you know who it is. You know who it is. But we're going to be talking about a horrific case of cannibalism in Germany, and I'm super excited to talk about that.
We haven't talked
as
about
well.
cannibals yet.
We haven't talked a lot about cannibals, that's for damn sure.
Yeah,
We
like
really
the
go.
totally not the skinwalkers dissecting cows and eating them alive and draining their blood is not.
Nah, that's not
It's not
heroin.
real. All right.
It's not cannibalism, man.
Unless it was the cows. They were doing it to each other.
Cows were
You
eating.
Surgical
know.
precision.
Cows secretly have a surgical fucking blade.
Skinwalkers, they're shapeshifters. You never know.
Yeah,
You
it's
never
true.
know. You truly never know. In fact, there is one other tale of cannibalism that I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but it happened in Canada, and it was under from a gentleman named
Sweet.
Bruce MacArthur,
Oh yeah.
who was kidnapping and murdering several men, and it was freaking crazy, crazy stuff. Very, very like insane. In fact, there's an episode on Netflix of Catching Killers about him. I highly recommend watching. Let me know actually. In the comments below or in chat right now if you'd like us to do one on Bruce MacArthur, because that one's pretty crazy. In fact, we found a couple pretty cool ones that we're going to be talking about. But folks, that is where we end our story on the Skinwalker Ranch. I hope you enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, don't forget to check out the rest of the content here on both the YouTube and Spotify, wherever podcasts are available. We have several episodes, so make sure you check those out as well. Hope you have a great day, night, evening, whatever happens to be that you're having. And well,
Goodbye.
Bye.
bye.
Bye.